Because just talked about rag and bone men. Well, just to show you that this show is really worked out properly. It's not just cobbled together, right? I've got a poem about the rag and bone man. Would you believe? Right? But it's called The Rag and Bone Man. It was written by David Lewis Paget, and it is available online. From www.writerscafe.org. And, before I read it, I better warn you that it is a poem with a rather dark but humorous sign. Okay? Right, The Rag and Bone Man. We'd hear the horse with its iron shoes and the dray with its wooden wheels approaching slowly over the hills and down to us by the fields. He'd always come in the afternoon when the sky was heavy with rain. In his old top hat and his hobnail boots, the rag and bone man came. The dray was covered with fusty sacks as he led the horse up the street, but penny whistles and jumping jacks he carried to give us a treat. He'd raise his arm and he'd ring the bell like a knell for the day of doom, and we'd stand and shiver and stamp our feet and sometimes hide in our room. He carried balloons and plastic toys and pegs he had by the score. Bring out your iron, bring out your rags, and you'll get a balloon for sure. He carried a bucket of pennies too, for the woman who wanted cash. They'd bring out their useless junk for him, old wheels or a window sash. He'd never shave for a day or two, and his waistcoat once was green, but none of the clothes he ever wore had seen a washing machine. The horse was blinkered and stood its ground and sometimes dumped on the road. So we'd go out with a bucket and spade and scoop up the steaming load. He'd call us over and give us mints. You tell your mam I'm here. A bag of rags for a dozen pegs or some empty bottles of beer. The girl next door had a bag of bones that she took, she said, from the dog. He gave her a couple of jumping jacks and a cream-filled chocolate frog. Each week she'd bring out a bag of bones while her parents watched through the blind. They'd never had much to do with us. Our mum said they were unkind. They lived together with Granny Stokes, who'd lost the use of her legs. They'd never feed her enough, said Mam. I hear whenever she begs. They had a copper way out the back. We're always cooking up bones. The smell was rotten. It makes you sick. It turns my stomach to stone. The husband works in a butcher's shop, so they get the bones for free. I heard my mum tell my dad when we all sat down at tea. The horse stood out on the street one day and refused to even budge. It carried a nosebag full of hay and needed more than a nudge. The rag and bone man hit it once and it reared, tipped up the dray, and the next door neighbour's sack fell off and her head went rolling away. There wasn't a strand of hair on it. There wasn't a slice of skin. But the neighbours rushed out of the door and they kicked up quite a din. The rag and bone man picked up the skull and he said, "This ain't a joke." The mam came out. "Oh God, that's her. They've boiled up old Granny Stokes." Whenever I hear the horse and dray as it clip-clops over the hill with a man in a filthy waistcoat, I can see the faces still. They said, "She died of a stroke, she did." I can hear their feeble moans. They told the police they didn't want to waste the old girl's bones. Well...